Good morning, everyone. Welcome to part 3 of my video series on good representation. And today I am going to answer the question, how do you make a movie, a feminist animated movie, so good that even the anti-woke brigade will not have a bad thing to say about it? American mainstream animated films tend to often throw red meat to the anti-woke brigade by maybe underwriting their female characters, or worse, constructing their female leads according to some kind of playbook about how to create a character specifically to appeal to a demographic. If you're creating a character with a specific demographic in mind, that almost never works. That almost never turns out well. In this, I actually have some common ground with the anti-woke brigade, or at least in terms of one thing that I often hear them say. You have to start with the story. If the story isn't strong, then it does not matter whether your cast of characters has gay, straight, male, female, trans, cis, whatever have you. It doesn't matter if the story is not there. It will come across as preachy and, quote, woke. Again, not trying to say that like it's a bad thing, but this is how people often perceive movies where the message gets ahead of the story. So, how to make a feminist animated movie so good that the anti-woke brigade will just ignore it. They cannot really criticize it because it's just so well done. The story is strong, the characters are strong and given flaws and strengths that feel believable and that have the spark of life rather than seeming like a collection of tropes knitted together. There are 5 films I want to highlight that I think do this particularly well. And sadly, none of them are American mainstream animated films. These are personal favorites of mine. The first 3 I want to talk about come from the one-stop heroine shop. If anybody knows how to make good movies about girls, it is Japan's Studio Ghibli, specifically movies that were directed by Hayao Miyazaki. And my favorite of these, not necessarily the quote best or even the most highly regarded, just one that personally to me means a lot. And that movie is Kiki's Delivery Service. It's actually the first one I saw, so that might have something to do with my personal attachment to it. But it involves a young witch who, at the age of 13, moves to a city, leaves her home, leaves her family to work in a city using her supernatural powers, using her powers to earn a living. This is a ritual, something that all witches do when they're 13 years old. And so Kiki moves to the city and she's insecure. She's not sure how she's going to get started. And all she really knows how to do is fly. But she finds a way to make that work for her. She finds a way to earn a living at this particular skill. And why do I love Kiki specifically? First of all, she goes through a crisis. She has a sequence where her powers are taken away, or she loses her powers, isn't sure whether she's ever going to get them back, and she manages to get through this crisis of doubt with the help of another female character, an artist named Ursula, who I wish had her own movie, but that's another story. And, well, actually, it's literally another story that hasn't been written yet. But eventually, Kiki does get her power back just in time to rescue the young boy that's been crushing on her. This is a movie where, at the climax, the heroine saves her, quote, love interest or friend interest, more accurately. So she gets her powers back in time to save the day. And the third point I love is that she doesn't have to give up her magic at the end. I'm so tired of seeing female magical characters who have to surrender their magic after they've used it to save the day. This does not happen here. Instead, you end with a credit sequence showing Kiki in the future after the events of the film, still using her powers, still making her delivery service work. The next one is directed by Miyazaki, although not, sorry, is written by Miyazaki, although not directed by him. And it's Whisper of the Heart. And this story involves a character named Shizuku, who becomes involved with a boy, gets a crush on him. He's her adolescent first love, and he actually inspires her. He's actually something of a muse for her. You so often see the male character, the one who creates, and the female character, the one who inspires. In this instance, you actually have that reversed. And he inspires her to pursue her dream of being a writer. So she writes her first book. And it may not be a very good book, but it's her first book, and she finishes it, and she does not let imposter syndrome stand in her way. So for a writer like me, Shizuku is a hero. She does what we all want to do. She finishes the story. She grows through her experience, doesn't let this discourage her. And so it's wonderful to see that represented in film. Third, a movie called When Marnie Was There. This is one of the more underrated Studio Ghibli films. I don't think Miyazaki directed this one, so but it's still a movie that I think deserves more attention for a couple of reasons. First of all, you get another creative female lead, Anna, who's an artist, and at the beginning of the story, she is unlikable. She is misalienation. She's suffered a loss and she's disconnected with the world and disconnected from the world and rebuffs other characters' attempts to befriend her. She finally does form a friendship with a strange girl named Marnie. And it is this friendship that reconnects her with the world. But I love the fact that, first of all, we've got another artist. Why do American animated films never have female lead characters who create? Why do we never see the creative girl or woman in US animated films? The only exception I can think of is Rapunzel from Tangled. You don't see that, and yet there are several just within Studio Ghibli characters, female characters who create, who build, who make things, who dream things. And also, I appreciate that this is a character who is unlikable. She doesn't have to start out all good and perfect and kind and flawless at the beginning. She grows into that. She becomes, over the process of the film, a more empathetic person. Now, the last two that I want to talk about are from Ireland, a studio called Cartoon Saloon. The first one is The Breadwinner. And I want to preface this by saying that The Breadwinner is not for children. This is a rough watch because it is set in Taliban controlled Afghanistan, and its main character is a girl named Parvana who has to pretend to be a boy in order to earn a living for her family, in order to keep them from starvation, because the only man of working age in the household, her father, has been thrown in prison. And so she can't earn a living as a girl, she has to pretend to be a boy. But what I love about her, aside from the fact that she's a storyteller and she uses her imagination to survive, is that she manages to keep her inner life. She manages to maintain her sense of self, her sense of who she is, in circumstances that would make it nearly impossible for a lot of us to do that. And she manages to hold on to this and so becomes a hero for me. But this does not pretty up what it is like to be a girl or woman living under the Taliban. It is a brutal film. And the ending is kind of pessimistic, so you need to be prepared for that. But it's an instance where you have a dramatic adult story being told through the medium of animation and being told very beautifully, I believe, by the people at Cartoon Saloon. And then I'm going to wind up with my favorite, which is Wolfwalkers. This is the best female friendship movie I have ever seen. Or I should say, if you put coming of age and female friendship together, this movie does that better than any other that I have seen. It features two heroines with flaws. One is a type of werewolf who, by day, takes the form of a girl and by night assumes the form of a wolf. And she becomes involved with a quote normal girl who has been brought over with her father, whose job it is to kill every wolf in the forest. And so each of these girls starts out with preconceptions about the other one. And the way that each one manages to overcome these preconceptions with a lot of roadblocks or a lot of setbacks thrown in their way is the heart of the film. The friendship that these two girls manage to form. And they're both really interesting people. They feel, again, organic. They have the spark of life. They're both flawed. They both make mistakes, sometimes make rash decisions. Not not everything goes well for them. They have to struggle against obstacles. And yet this movie ends with the friendship intact and also with the magic intact. Like Kiki, this is another instance where the girl gets to maintain her magic in the end. And she's not the only one. I will not spoil the movie because I want you all to see it because it's just a wonderful film that does not get enough attention. But these five films, they are my choices for the best feminist films that are so good that the anti-woke brigade just doesn't even bother trying to tear them down. So seek them out, enjoy them. Thank you.